Have you suffered any racism while you've been in Tijuana? This is a good video to do, especially considering that as an Asian American and as an African American, we're probably the most different looking people out here. I guess maybe if you took like a blonde Caucasian, then that's another one. But typically, what has been the have you had issues with racism while out here?
I've only been called like a pinche negro by
what does that translate into?
looking like black person in Espanol. By a homeless lady, like when I was going down like some side streets. Going to get something to eat from the area. So not really though, for the most part, nah. I've had people think I'm Haitian. You know, a lot of Haitians.
There are a lot of Haitians out here in Tijuana. Yeah. No, as an Asian, so you've only been called, so you're called a, say it again?
Pinche negro.
It means a fucking,
like black person.
Oh, okay. An effing black person, that's what it means.
Negro,
oh, okay,
negro,
yeah. Okay,
negro.
So, but you've only been called that once?
Once, yeah.
In how long have you been spending down here, or traveling, everything?
Yeah, I've been coming to Mexico for about Tijuana, like 2015, long time.
Since 2015, so that's like 7 years.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Or longer, almost 8 now. Okay, yeah, I've actually been doing about 7 years myself. So when it comes to racism towards Asians, they're not, I don't think they're blatantly racist, but what will happen a lot is you'll hear them like call you like Chino, or they'll say, if you've probably seen it or heard it many times, like they'll call you Chino, which just means like Chinese, or like Chinito or little Chinese or whatever. Like they typically anybody who looks Asian, they'll typically like call like Chinese or Chino. It's kind of like it's more of like, sometimes I feel like it's more of a description. It's more of a fast way to like label or describe a person. It's kind of like when you think about it in the US.
Stereotype.
Well, in the US, when you're filing a police report, what's one of the fastest ways to identify a person? You have to like identify them fast. Well, by race. Logically, the fastest way to identify a person is by race. So sometimes I look at it out here, like if they're gonna like throw around like names like, oh, Chino or Gringo or Güero or Negro or Moreno. You know, Moreno is not so much. I guess they use Moreno to like describe black people as well out here. But you know, also like Moreno also fits in that category of like brown, maybe. Yeah. So basically, like they throw out these terms. I used to think it was a race thing. I used to think it could have been like racial or racist, but it's not really racist. It's more of like kind of their way of like labeling people or calling people by nicknames. They have a lot of people, like in Latin America, a lot of people get the nickname Chino because they have more of an Asian look. Or sometimes, yeah, it's very common. Negro, not so much, but like as a nickname anyways. So often they use it, it's more of a way to identify people. That's how I'm interpreting it, because I don't want to interpret that the whole population of people are racist and they hate people of different ethnicities. It's absolutely not like that. I don't feel like people hate Asian people out here. I don't feel like people hate black people out here. I don't feel like people hate white people out here. Actually, Mexico has like, in terms of like the racial makeup of Mexicans, when you take the people who are like darker, like brown maybe, the mestizo, the mixture between the Spanish and the indigenous, which is more brown.
Aztec.
Yeah, Aztec. Then yeah, it's definitely like a pretty mixed population, and I don't really feel like there's like really like blatant racism out here. What I will say for sure though is there is a strong sense of nationalism, like a super strong sense of nationalism, where they do love their own out here. I feel that more in Mexico than in other places. Like they're super crazy about when like a Mexican person wins a sporting event,
they're in favor of their own.
Or like but I feel like they take it a little bit too far sometimes, to the point where like they favor their own race like over other people. But honestly, I think almost any race is like this. There are many races like this. like, you know, being a guy who was raised in, you know, very diverse places, you know, lived in Canada, lived in the United States, traveled to Europe, spent time in Latin America. Race to me, I mean, I can relate more to an Asian person, and actually I relate more to black people than I probably can with Latinos, to be 100% honest. That's why if you know, that's kind of the funny thing. You know, in California, the racial makeup goes like, okay, everyone sticks to their own race, but you know, because there's such a small amount of Asians in prisons, you know, do you know who the Asians tend to like stick with?
Blacks and others.
Asians like typically in like jails in like California, Asians will be with like blacks, and maybe Pacific Islanders, Samoans as well. But no, in terms of situations I've had out here, every situation I've had where I felt like somebody hated me because of my race, it was always because someone was either drunk or somebody was completely out of it. I guess I'll put it like this. One time I was in some streets closer to like the red light district, and then it was outside of the apartment I was staying at, and one guy in Spanish, he was saying like, he was looking at me, and this guy was completely like shit-faced drunk, and then he said, this is literally what he said. He said, this fucking Chinese, why doesn't he go back to his own country? And then I was like, okay. that's what some drunk Mexican guy said out here in Tijuana one day, like really early in the morning. I don't take offense to it because number one, he's drunk, and number two, I could tell like this guy was like probably broke as fuck. So a guy who's completely broke as fuck and he's drunk and he's screaming racist shit, in my eyes, that's not a racist person. Or in my eyes, I don't consider it a racist insult. In my eyes, it's just a fucking loser who's mad at the world, and he's just like, you know, I'm sure you've had situations where somebody hated on you and they were saying some racial stuff, but you knew that this person was such a loser that they would hate on anybody of like probably any different race that was around them. So I've had a situation like that. I've had two situations out here with Mexican American guys. They were both probably drunk, maybe on drugs, and they were both fat. They were both obese. So they were ugly. So they had nothing to look forward to in life, and they both tried to pick fights with me. So two guys, you know, one of them called me like a Chinese bitch in Spanish, and this was in the red light district. And then I asked him, like, I asked him, what the fuck did you say? And he goes up to me, he goes up face to face with me, and he punches me in the chest. And the punch was so weak, I told people later, like, I've been hit harder by women, to be honest. Like, you know, I mean, I know you tried to hurt me, but I've been hit harder by women. I'm sorry to tell you that, but it's the truth. I don't lie. And then the other guy, he was this guy who was like pushing 300 pounds. And then he sat beside me on a bench outside my old apartment, and he starts saying like ching chong ding dong or whatever like that. and I was like, okay, cool. Like, you know, you're like, I don't know if he was like making some sounds with fucking pots and pans. So I'm like, I just look at him and I tell him, like, I tell this guy, I looked at him in the face and I said, shut up. And then he looks at me, he's like, oh, that's not very respectful. And I was like, do you know what you just said to me?
Yeah.
And then I just remember at that time I was waiting for an Uber Eats delivery.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, what the fuck? So I got out of there, and then he said something like, yeah, I'll slap the Asian out of you or something like that. I can't take him seriously because here's the thing. These people I've had situations with down here, and these are all situations I've had down here in Tijuana, Mexico. I can't take these situations seriously because everybody who had an issue with me and was being racist to me, like I said, this same guy who I'm talking about, I couldn't take him seriously because this guy's pushing 300 pounds. This guy's pushing 300 pounds. He was dressed like a bum. His pants were like all baggy, and his shirt was just like, you could see all the fat like hanging out of his shirt. You can't take, I just couldn't take these people seriously. And also, like, those last two guys, this guy was a Mexican American guy, so he wasn't part of the local population. And if it were anywhere else instead of my apartment, I would have fucked this guy up really fucking bad. I would have, you know, I would have had a lot of fun with this guy, because I have a lot of fun with people who are really out of shape when they try to fight with me. I have a lot of fucking fun with them, because it ends up turning into like a fucking sparring session for me. Yeah, I did like jujitsu before. I've trained in like boxing, and you know, I've trained. I haven't had that many fights, but I've sparred, so I know more or less, you know, what I'm doing.
Train yourself, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So these situations and these people, I don't take them seriously, and the fact that I don't take them seriously just shows that in terms of totally blatant racism, no, I don't see it. But there is definitely a lot of stereotyping. Like, a lot of people, like, even though I speak fluent Spanish, because of my face, a lot of people who can even
prejudge.
Yeah, a lot of people who speak like even really poor English out here, they see my face and then they try to speak like they're very poor English with me. And sometimes it's inconvenient to deal with that, because it would be a lot faster if we can just speak in Spanish and freaking, you know, do what we need to do, rather than they see my face and right away they assume. And then it gets annoying, because when they have a really bad English, which, you know, I mean, there are varying levels of everyone has different levels of language, whatever language you speak. But they see my face, and then now it's just like I have to deal with their broken English. And even if it happens sometimes where even when I show them I speak fluent Spanish, they still want to keep with their broken English. And then at that point, I'm just like, it's kind of a waste of time. That I'll be honest, that annoys me. That annoys me, because it's like a waste of time, and it's kind of pointless to me. It's like, hey, let's just get this done. You know, I'm a time efficient person. I'm not here to like, hey, you know, let's drag it out.
Know anything. They just label you. That's not cool.
Yeah, I've seen other people who are completely out of it show hate towards a white friend of mine. He said we were walking, and then some random guy in the street said, "You fucking white guy," or something like that. But like I said, everything that has happened, you can't take them seriously. You can't take sick people, like
ignorance.
Obese people, these like really obese people who like dress really poorly, people who probably hate their lives. These people don't enjoy their lives, and that's why they do those kinds of things. So those are some racial issues I've had out here. It's not really racial. It's not really like. It's like I said, those things happen with people that I don't take seriously. The most annoying thing has been the thing where people assume that I can't speak Spanish, and then we're stuck speaking English even when it would be more convenient to speak Spanish. Also, the thing is that while being out here, and this is Tijuana though, right? So we're very close to the U.S. border. That makes a difference as well. So one other thing I've dealt with in that sense is that I feel like there's a less degree of acceptance even after they know I speak Spanish. There are certain people where they're not one of these like blatantly racist people, or people trying to pick a fight with me, but they're people I may even deal with in my day-to-day life, where they don't look at me as a Spanish speaker even though they know I speak Spanish, which to me is weird. And then the second thing, they don't accept me as part of the population, or they don't accept me as
still a foreigner, or
they still look at me as a foreigner. So those are some issues I've had out here. When it comes to getting things at a certain price though, I will say, once they know you speak Spanish, typically you won't have issues with getting ripped off. If you speak Spanish, and it doesn't matter what race you are, if they know that you speak their language, then typically they won't try to scam you. So that's one good thing I like about here, where I haven't had issues with scams. And maybe it has to do with speaking Spanish. I don't exactly know, but yeah, those are kind of my experiences. But no racism, no, other than those isolated events. But like I said,
I don't know to say.
Yeah.
Only thing I see Mexicans really like show their, true pride and, who they are and stuff is during soccer games and stuff like that. Like, I can say when they play Argentina, like, they hate Argentinians with a passion. And Argentinians hate Mexicans with a passion. And they really go at it.
Oh, okay. Like, have you seen that, like, in the
I've seen
bars
people,
or?
Yeah, and I've seen people talk like, Mexicans, they don't like Argentinians because Argentinians look down upon them. And, it's kind of like an arrogance type of thing that they have. We're the real Latinos because Argentina is supposed to be like the Paris of South America. So, you know what I mean? And they think that's how Mexicans view them. They think they're high and mighty. But other than that, no.
Do you have experience with the Argentinians?
No, I don't. Just from the bar.
Oh, okay. Which bar?
Bar in California.
Oh, okay, in California.
Yeah.
Oh, not in Tijuana.
Not in Tijuana, but it was Mexicans in there, and it was a soccer game, and I went in Reno Valley, and I've seen the tension. You could look and they're looking at each other. They got their jerseys on. The Argentinians were surprisingly, they had their jerseys on in the California's predominantly Mexican.
Oh, okay.
They were representing, so.
They're more of a. They're more of a European. They have more of a European background. I don't know if you saw that within them.
Yeah. They're more of white features.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But the very interesting thing is when you take the Spanish population in Spain, especially for any viewers who have been to Spain as well, even a lot of people in Spain aren't totally, don't have those very Caucasian features, as in like if you're talking about like light colored hair and like colored eyes, a lot of them actually have darker features, like the darker hair, like black hair. And actually, one interesting thing about being in Mexico and being in Spain is there is a lot of crossover with the population. You can go to Spain and you can see an exact duplicate or an exact twin of somebody that you see in Mexico. You can go in Spain and see that exact same person walking around with the exact same face, body, everything. I've seen it a good 3 or 4 times now.
Okay.
Where literally I remember I would see somebody in Mexico, and then when I went to Spain, I saw like their twin over there. Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty nutty, isn't it?
That's the origin, I guess. Yeah, Spain.
Yeah. But otherwise, if anything, I've actually seen women out here give more love to black guys. From what I've noticed that but then again, some of these black guys I'm talking about, they were tall at the same time. And when you factor in the height into it, that could have something to do with it. Yeah.
We're still taller than the average.
Yeah, exactly. So I do see a bit of both. I see girls out here like interested in foreigners, but I would say in Tijuana, and maybe I don't know if it's all of Mexico, but I do feel like they tend to love their own a lot.
They favor
more.
their own. For
yeah.
Sure.
Whereas I know in other countries they do show more love towards foreigners.
Yeah.
But here they love their own a lot.
Their pride, they're hardcore.
A lot of it has to do, I think, with having so many Mexicans working in the US, where it's kind of they don't need to depend on so much foreign investment. Because when your cousin can work in San Diego, or when you can meet like someone of the same race that works in LA and is sending money down here all the time, you don't have to go outside of your group.
True.
And then that's kind of one thing I've noticed out here. But
that is true. I've noticed. I have a sales and marketing background, and a lot of the clients that I've had, they work here and send a lot of money. They work there and send a lot of money here to take care of their families here.
Okay, so they're working in California and sending money to Mexico.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. A lot of them do that. A lot of them do that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the whole racism thing, this isn't something new, but in terms of you being, like, let's say an Asian American or an African American, if you're walking around the streets of Tijuana, Mexico, you're not gonna have any issues.
No.
You're not.
No.
Yeah. That's basically, in a nutshell, you'll be fine.
It's a melting pot here.
Yeah. If anything, you just need, like, just like anywhere else, you need to pay. You need to be able to pay for stuff. That's basically, and that's pretty much anywhere you go.
Yeah.
One thing that will happen also with Asian Americans or Asian people in general is that they'll make some of these comments that you typically wouldn't hear or see in in like a first world country, in a first world society, where they'll say things like, and you've seen it happen with me before. They'll say shit like, "Oh, Bruce Lee."
Jackie Chan.
They'll say like, they'll down here like they'll say like, "Oh, Bruce Lee," or Jackie Chan, or like whatever. And although people, it kind of like as an Asian person down here, you kind of have to get used to that stuff, because people are gonna freaking just like throw that shit. People are just gonna like let that shit fly out of their mouths. It's not, like I said, it's not racist, but I guess it's not politically correct. I guess that's kind of like the term that we use. It's not politically correct. I mean, during the filming of one of my blogs out here, one guy was it was two of us like Asian guys, and we're filming at a taco place, and one of the customers in the background, he said that he was talking in Spanish. He said, well, this video is going directly to Japan. Yeah, he said this video is going directly to Japan, and then he tells the guy that was making the tacos, he's like, I think they're probably trying to steal the recipe or something like that, which is just like,
they just say random dumb shit just because they see you. It's
just like I don't take it personal. They're just like, it's just some dumb shit that comes out of like their head. And you know what? I mean, I've seen the same thing with like Asians when you talk about like, if you talk about like Mexican people, like a bunch of Asian people, like Asian people who don't have how do you say it? Contact with many Latinos. The second like, you know, I've seen it like with the Asian crowd, where they start saying like, oh, you know, tacos, or like, you know.
People have the stereotypes.
Yeah, or like they'll do that whole Mexican hat thing, or like say like stuff like that. Yeah, but you know, it's like, I mean, stereotypes do exist for a reason. The stereotypes exist because a lot of people of one particular group like have a tendency to do certain things, you know. So, but that's also something that happens. I mean, it's not to be taken personally. As an Asian American being down here, you kind of have to accept that people are going to do these things. Like, people are going to come up to you, and people like Mexicans out here, they're going to come up to you and say like konnichiwa, like shit like that. It just happened to me this morning. And you know, am I really gonna turn around and fucking flip off people? Am I really gonna turn around and fucking like, you know, cuss people out every single time this happens? Nah, I prefer not to do that. I just keep walking, because if I had to spend energy every single time somebody said something like it's just not politically correct. It's not racist. It's just not,
can't be sensitive.
Politically correct.
Can't be sensitive. Say things personal.
Yeah, pretty much. But overall, I would say like the Asian population does very well out here. There are a lot of business owners out here, and in this society, yeah.
Mexicali is predominantly, you know,
they have a big Chinese population. So I think like the society out here is, hey, you know, people they have minorities, and even with the Haitians, and along with like the Chinese people who own a lot of restaurants, a lot of them, they put in a lot of work in, and they make money, and they make a living, and a lot of them are doing very well. So, you know, it's not like they're not being driven out of here. They're not being targeted in terms of like hate crimes. I think there's more of that in the U.S. Oh, there's way more of that in the U.S. Like people being targeted for hate crimes. Yeah. Over here, there's just more maybe ignorance, but there's no, you know, I've never. Like I said, I have now officially been hit by somebody who called me like a Chinese bitch. That guy who I talked about earlier, I was hit by him. He punched me in the chin. He didn't punch me in the face though. So when you kind of think about it, I think he purposely didn't punch me in the face, because he was right up to me, to my face. So now I'm thinking about it now. It's like, okay, he could have punched me in the face, but I think he didn't. And I think I know why, because he was trying to be a tough guy, but he didn't want to go too far as to.
Yeah. He didn't want to get his ass whooped.
Yeah. That basically. Yeah. So those are some other things that people have to deal with, especially for the Asian Americans. And I think also for Asian Americans, they're looked at down here as people who have money.
Definitely. Most foreigners, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
You as well? Like, have you had that experience?
Just the way you dress, you know what I mean? Because I mean, because a lot of people here, you know, they wear like secondhand, a lot of hand-me-downs and stuff like that. If you come here with, you know, straight out the store stuff, they can tell just based on your appearance.
Yeah, yeah. Hey guys, I'm here with Demetrius Stokes. How do people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube. Just type my name in, Demetrius Stokes, or type in King Achiever.